toward paddock and up towards grid.
Well, hello everybody, it's Suffolk Andy outside a little church here. It's called St Mary's in the middle of nowhere in Suffolk as usual. Just thought I'd stop and have a little look around. Very creepy little tiny graveyard, as you can see. Just a basic little Suffolk church. Anyway, I thought to myself, after yesterday doing the Mr. and Mrs. Brain Dump Challenge, which was supposed to be 10 minutes of a vid, I managed to do 21.5 unedited. So I think I smashed that one with no problem. Maybe it's because I'm just a bloody chatterbox, but there you go. But anyway, thinking about it today, I thought, I know one or two of my subscribers like a little bit of a ghosty story or whatever, you know. And I thought what I'd do, I'll just make a very quick vlog today with a couple of little stories, really, a couple of 3 stories maybe, very quick ones. What's happened to me? As one or two of you know, that I am a working medium, and sometimes I'm called up to people's houses who are having problems with ghosties. Well, the first story I'm going to tell you was about a house in Felixstowe, which is on the east coast here, and I was called in because the lady and the man who lived there kept saying they kept seeing fleeting people or somebody in their house just in the corner of their eye, which is not uncommon. But before I go any further, can I just say that 99% of houses are not haunted. They're not haunted at all. There's nothing in them. That's just down to silly noises and things, and the house settling down, and you name it, all sorts of things. Anyway, back to the story. They called me in, so I went to the house and done my usual walk around. I must explain to you just for a quick second, if I know there's a spirit that hasn't passed over in a house or a building, I usually get a feeling like a tightening of the chest. My hairs on my arms will raise up, and skip round here, and that will usually let me know if there's something about. Anyway, going back to this story, I walked round the house, downstairs, couldn't pick a damn thing up. I thought, well, there's nothing here, which doesn't mean there's not, but they do come and go. Anyway, I had a look around downstairs and went upstairs and had a look around, and the lady of the house was with me, and she said, what can you feel? I said, I can't feel nothing in this house, there's nothing going on. And then I thought, I don't know, and I looked out the window, and at the bottom of the garden, this was quite a large house. It was built in about 1920, so it was quite a large house down on the seaside. And I looked out the window, and there he was, a man standing in the corner of the garden, just looking at the house, with sort of no expression on his face. And I said to the lady, I said, can you see the man in the garden? And she looked, and she couldn't see him. So I thought, right, here we go. So we went downstairs, and we went out into the garden, and he'd gone. But the funny thing is, when we went to where he was standing, there was 2 footmarks in the dirt of 2 boot marks where he'd been standing. There's no way he could have been standing there and getting out, because there was a big 6-foot fence, and we'd have heard him anyway. You couldn't have climbed it anyway. And there was 2 footprints in the dirt where the guy or the spirit person was standing. And I said to her, I said, right, I said, don't worry, I've got it. This is the guy who built the house. It was an individually built house in the early 20s. And I said, he's just keeping an eye on it. He loved it so much, it was his house. And he just has to walk around a bit and have a look and make sure everything's all okay. Probably comes inside and everything else and buggers off. I said, does he cause you any problem? She said, no, it just unnerves us. What I said to him, just speak to him. Tell him that he's playing you up. Please be a bit more patient with you, and asked him to be good, and he will. Anyway, about 6 months later, I phoned her up and said, how are you getting on? She said, well, we've done what you said and everything is fine. We don't catch any glimpses of him now and it's all good. Story number one. Right, story number two. This is going to show you how you think you've got a haunting but you haven't. I got called up by a lady who said that the guy next door 2 years earlier had hung himself in the bedroom next to his bedroom and they hadn't found him for several weeks. So, and she said she was sitting in her house at night and she's watching telly and she's freaked out. It's doing her head in. She keeps feeling that she's being watched and there's somebody in the house, and she was worried about her little daughter who slept in the next bedroom. So off I went again, had a little look round. Yeah, so off I went again and had a little look round. Went round the place, couldn't pick nothing up at all. And at that time I had another medium with me, and she had a look around and she couldn't find anything. So I thought there's got to be a reason for this, which is not spiritual. So we got a little bit of equipment out, which actually registers magnetic fields. Because if you've got a magnetic field which is around you, it can cause you paranoia. It can make you feel sick, especially if you've done it long enough. And the list of symptoms of that goes on and on. So we took the meter around, and I said, where do you actually sit and watch the telly? And she said, here on the settee. Well, right beside her head was a stereo and a phone charger. And when we put the meter against these things, it went off the bloody scale. So I said to her, I said, look, what's happening is here, this magnetic field that you've got, and we sure that on the meter that it was off the scale, I said, is making you feel paranoid at night. I said, if you move your position or split these up and knock the field down, you're going to be fine. 6 months later, how are you getting on? Oh, no problem at all, she said. It's all finished. I'm quite all right. So that just shows you that you don't need to have a haunting to think you're being haunted, basically, because you're not. I know this might sound strange to some of you boys and girls, but I have explained in earlier vids some of the stuff I do, and I don't speak about it very often, you know, because I know there's a lot of skeptics out there, and you know, and I can understand where they're coming from, really can. But trust me, you know, I wouldn't make this stuff up just for the sake of entertainment or to give me an ego that yes, I'm a spiritual medium. I wouldn't. Now the other thing I'll just briefly go on before I finish this vlog is somebody said to me about my boy's accident, and they did say to me, did you ever pick up that there was going to be trouble or an accident? Well, if I kept myself open to the spirit world 24/7, I mean open, it would do my head in. All I would get would be flooded with messages from the spirit world. I've known the time when I first started this, when I didn't have hadn't learned how to control it. I'd be sitting in a hospital or something like that, you know, and the person next to me I didn't know, I'd just look at them and say, oh, you're from Yorkshire? And they go, yeah. And I said, well, who's John? And they go, what's my dad? Oh, I've got a message for you. And this is how it used to go, and that used to do my head in. So cutting a very long story short, I had training at a local spiritual church for 8 years to get to the hang of all this malarkey, as Jim would say, all this malarkey, and got you know, found out how to close myself down. So now when I'm sort of like today, I don't hear bloody voices from the spirit world or anything else. But if I wanted to, I just open up. There's a process of doing it, doesn't take long, and away we go. Sometimes though, if I'm with somebody who's desperate for a message, it will come through straight away. You know, if I'm standing with somebody and they've had a bereavement, or I can pick it up that something with a bereavement is playing them up, I can pick that up. So basically that's the way it works, you know. I can tell you a quick story. I don't want to make this vlog too long, but I will tell you a quick story. When I was 21, I worked at a firm, and I wasn't getting on very well with my foreman. He was a complete and utter arsehole. He really was, but he was a heavy drinker. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I knew they had it in for me, and I knew they were going to try and get me out. So anyway, one day I was late for work like a twat, and got dragged into the office, and there were 3 guys there who were going to sack me. One was my manager, one was the transport manager, and the other one was the guy who was going to sack me, who actually run the whole firm. I'm not going to say what firm it was because they were quite well known at that time. Anyway, I knew they hadn't got anything against me apart from me being late, and they just didn't like me. I was a bit outspoken, a bit of an arsehole when I was younger. Didn't take no shit, never took fools gladly. Anyway, after they sacked me, I said, can I just give you a bit of advice? I said, before I go. I said, because I'm not going to contest this. And I looked at my manager and I said, you're going to be dead in 6 months. And I looked at the transport manager and I said, you are going to have a heart attack in about 8 or 9 months. I said, and if you keep shagging that secretary, this is going to give you even worse heart attack. And I looked at the bloke who run the place and I said, you're going anyway because you're getting sacked for fraud. Everything I said to these guys came to fore. My manager died of a alcoholic related illness. The guy I said was going to have the heart attack had a massive heart attack. He didn't die, but he was severely disabled after that. And the guy who ran the company was sacked for fraud. So yes, sometimes you can pick up these things. I'm glad I don't anymore because I don't want to know. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. Gives you lots of things to think about there. Some of you think that's bloody screwy, but if you do, that's fine. I don't bother me. And you know, skeptics, I can understand where they're coming from. Trust me. But there's so much out there, and I could talk about it for hours and hours, but I'm not. Anyway, I'm going home. Mrs. P's got lots of things to do for me, and lot of things to do for me. I've got lots of things to do for Mrs. P. But another girl we're staying in Suffolk. Suffolk Andy.